We've all thrown down in a few fighting games before, but let's be real, most of them are all about flashy combos and bright, colorful stages. Fun? Sure. But some games? They're on another level. The kind of level that makes your palms sweat, your friends flinch, and the screen run red with chaos. These aren't your average brawls. These are pure, unfiltered brutality. From the blood-soaked glory days of the arcade to the bone-crunching power of modern hardware, these games have carved their names into the Hall of Fame for savage showdowns. This is the 10 most brutal fighting games of all time. Bushido Blade 2 isn't just another fighting game. It's a duel where one clean strike can end the fight instantly. Forget health bars, flashy juggles, or endless combos. Here, every swing of your sword could be your last. One wrong move and it's over in a single slash. That's what makes it so brutal. Released for the PlayStation in 1998, this sequel refined the already tense, high-stakes combat of the original. You pick your weapon, choose your stance, and step into battles that feel more like deadly standoffs than arcade brawls. It's not about chipping away at your opponent. It's about finding the perfect opening and committing to it. And when you land that strike, the match ends in a flash, leaving your opponent stunned. The beauty and savagery of Bushido Blade 2 is in its realism. You can cripple your opponent's limbs, slow their movement, or outright finish them with a perfectly timed attack. It's raw, unforgiving, and dripping with tension from start to finish. In a genre where fights usually drag out, Bushido Blade 2 proves that sometimes the most brutal battles are over in seconds. Primal Rage took the classic arcade fighter formula and replaced your martial artists with giant, prehistoric monsters tearing each other apart. Released in 1994, this game threw players into an apocalyptic Earth where dinosaurs and massive beasts fought for dominance. And it didn't hold back on the carnage. Instead of swords or fists, you've got claws, teeth, tails, and even some downright bizarre special moves. Battles are brutal and primal in every sense, with fighters ripping chunks out of each other, devouring unlucky humans in the background, and painting the battlefield with chaos. Every move feels heavy, like you're controlling a living weapon of destruction. The game was infamous for its fatalities long before that term was mainstream, letting players finish their foes with savage, over-the-top executions. 1 minute you're trading blows, and the next you're watching your opponent get eaten whole. It was a spectacle loud, violent, and unforgettable in arcade halls. Primal Rage might not have been the deepest fighter mechanically, but its wild concept and unapologetic brutality made it stand out. Sometimes the most memorable fights aren't about precision, they're about raw, untamed destruction. Feng, Fist of the Lotus hit the Xbox in 2003 with one goal: make fighting feel painful. And it pulled it off with a combat system that made every punch, kick, and throw feel like it had real bone-snapping weight behind it. Developed by Studio Gigante, founded by Mortal Kombat co-creator John Tobias, Feng went all in on realism. Instead of static life bars that only drained, fighters could suffer visible injuries that affected gameplay. Break a leg, your opponent's kicks get slower. Damage their arms, their punches lose strength. It wasn't just flashy, it made you feel the damage you dealt. The arenas were another standout. They weren't just pretty backdrops, they were fully interactive. You could smash your opponent into walls, columns, or objects and watch them break apart in spectacular fashion. It gave fights a raw, almost street brawl intensity that few games matched at the time. While Feng didn't get the recognition of bigger franchises, it earned a cult following for its gritty tone and dynamic combat. It's proof that you don't need endless combos or gallons of gore to make a fighting game feel brutal. Sometimes, realism is the most savage weapon of all. Deadliest Warrior. The game takes the concept of what-if battles and turns them into some of the fastest, most vicious fights you'll ever see in a fighter. Released in 2010 for Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network, it pits historical warriors, ninjas, samurai, Spartans, pirates, against each other in brutal, weapon-based duels where a single mistake can end everything. This isn't a game where you slowly chip away at a health bar. Here, 1 or 2 solid hits are all it takes to drop your opponent, often with blood spraying and limbs flying. Matches can be over in seconds, making every movement tense and calculated. It's all about landing that one perfect strike before your enemy does. The game's brutality isn't just for show. It's baked into the design. Weapons can pierce armor, sever limbs, and even decapitate, all rendered in a way that feels shockingly final. You don't win rounds here, you survive them. While it was a smaller, digital-only release, Deadliest Warrior, the game earned a reputation for being unapologetically lethal. It's proof that sometimes the most savage fighting games are the ones where you barely have time to breathe before someone's head hits the floor. Samurai Showdown's 2019 reboot brought the series back in style, and with it, the kind of precision-based brutality that makes every match feel like a duel to the death. While most modern fighters focus on flashy combos and juggling opponents in the air, Samurai Showdown is all about patience, timing, and making your hits count. Here, a single well-placed strike can rip off half your opponent's health bar, turning every moment into a tense standoff. Swing recklessly, and you'll leave yourself wide open. Play smart, and you can end a match in seconds. The game's slower pace only adds to the intensity, forcing players to think like actual swordsmen instead of button-mashing brawlers. The visuals and animations sell the violence perfectly. Every slash, stab, and counter lands with bone-deep weight, often followed by dramatic splashes of blood. It's not just about winning, it's about surviving a fight that feels personal. Samurai Showdown proves that you don't need to drown the screen in endless gore to be brutal. Sometimes, the deadliest thing in a fighting game is knowing that one wrong move means you're already dead. Dead or Alive 6 might not be the bloodiest game on this list, but make no mistake, it's brutal in its own way. Released in 2019, this entry in the long-running series took its fast, fluid combat and cranked up the impact, making every hit feel heavier than ever. One of the standout features was its break gauge system, allowing for devastating special attacks that could turn the tide of a match in a single moment. Combine that with bone-crunching throws and cinematic knockback animations, and you've got fights that look and feel painful. The game also leaned into environmental danger zones. You could smash opponents through walls, send them flying into exploding barrels, or launch them into electrified fences. Each stage felt like a deadly playground, and using the environment well could be just as important as mastering your combos. What really sells the brutality is how personal the combat feels. It's not just about numbers on a health bar. It's about slamming someone into the ground, watching the shockwave ripple, and knowing you just took control of the fight. Dead or Alive 6 proves that sheer force and stage hazards can be every bit as savage as Gore. Back in the mid-90s arcade boom, Killer Instinct made its mark by being faster, meaner, and way more punishing than its competition. While Street Fighter and Tekken were technical and precise, Killer Instinct was out to humiliate you. Ultra combos could stretch for dozens of hits, making your health bar melt away while your opponent basked in the cinematic carnage, especially with those vicious finishing moves. In 2013, the franchise roared back with a reboot that might not have blown critics away, but it nailed the spirit of the originals. The fights were blisteringly fast. The bone-crunching sound design made every hit feel lethal, and the pacing kept you locked in from start to finish. Every blow in Killer Instinct feels like a victory, and when you're the one getting hit, you feel it in the worst way possible. The game thrives on that relentless back and forth, where a single slip-up can snowball into a combo that feels like a public execution. Killer Instinct has always been a franchise built on speed, ruthlessness, and pure fighting brutality, and the 2013 reboot proved that after all these years, it still knows how to hurt you.
Dragon Breaker!
Def Jam. Fight for New York is what happens when you take the bone-snapping brutality of a street fight and wrap it in pure early 2000s hip-hop swagger. Forget pristine arenas or elegant martial arts. This was about throwing down in dingy clubs, subway stations, and grimy New York back alleys. The combat system was a mashup of everything: wrestling slams, MMA submissions, and savage street brawling, topped off with some of the most satisfying environmental takedowns in fighting game history. Slamming someone into a car door or sending them crashing into a massive speaker stack wasn't just a move. It was a statement. The game oozed personality, with fighters taunting, trash-talking, and strutting with confidence before beating the absolute life out of each other. Every hit landed heavy, every throw looked painful, and the crowds in the background made it feel like a real underground fight for survival. Def Jam. Fight for New York wasn't just a fighting game. It was a brutal, stylish war zone where the environment was just as dangerous as your opponent. And if you were on the losing end, well, you'd feel it in your pride and your ribs. Sports games rarely show up on lists about brutality, but Fight Night Champion isn't your typical sports title. This 2011 boxing sim delivered a cinematic, hard-hitting take on the sport, where every punch had weight, power, and consequences. Hooks and uppercuts didn't just score points. They split skin, swelled eyes, and sent sweat flying in slow-motion detail that made you wince. Champion Mode's gritty story only amplified the impact, following a tale of revenge and redemption that made every bout feel personal. The fights were intense enough on their own, but then you faced Isaac Frost, one of the most frustrating and punishing bosses in gaming history, modeled after WWE's Randy Orton. Beating him wasn't just a victory, it was survival. Fight Night Champion proved you don't need swords, fireballs, or gallons of gore to make a fighting game feel savage. Realism was the weapon here, and it hit harder than most fantasy fighters could dream of. Even today, the game holds up both visually and mechanically, with every jab, hook, and knockout punch still making you flinch. This is the game that made players respect the sheer brutality of boxing, and never look at the sport the same way again.
Too far away and was going to be worse. Right now he's only getting frustrated, maybe embarrassed, as you touched on, but what's going to be worse is when he starts getting counted in between them.
Pulls the trigger right away with the left hand after getting tagged himself.
Come on!
Foreman's doing exactly what you should to be a strong defensive fighter. You got to block those punches away. 10 clicks of the talk. Blocks the head.
No list of brutal fighting games is complete without the king of carnage, Mortal Kombat. Since its debut in 1992, this series has been drenching arcade screens in blood, shocking parents, and delighting players with its unapologetic gore. For over 3 decades, it's been pushing the limits of what a fighting game can show, delivering photorealistic carnage with ribs shattering, jaws exploding, and muscles tearing apart in grotesque detail. This is the series where heads get ripped from spines, torsos are split in two like some horrifying game of Fruit Ninja, and eyeballs take unexpected flights across the stage. And the best part? Mortal Kombat does it all with a sly wink, knowing exactly how over the top it's being. Its impact on gaming culture is undeniable. This is the franchise that directly led to the creation of the ESRB rating system. And while the mechanics have evolved and improved with each entry, the core appeal has stayed the same. When you win, you don't just defeat your opponent. You erase them in the most spectacularly savage way possible. From arcades to modern consoles, Mortal Kombat remains the undisputed champion of fighting game brutality. And before we wrap things up, here's our bonus pick, Sifu. If Fight Night Champion was about realistic brutality, Sifu takes it and makes it stylish, surgical, and unrelenting. It's a modern beat-em-up that gets combat absolutely right. Every block, parry, sweep, and counter has to be earned, and every mistake is punished instantly by some of the smartest enemy AI you'll see in a fighting game. The environment isn't just decoration. It's a weapon. Like sleeping dogs, every countertop, wall, and staircase is just waiting for you to slam an enemy into. Fights flow like choreographed martial arts duels, but the hits feel raw, painful, and final. Then there's Sifu's most unique twist, the brutality of time itself. Every time you die, you come back older, your body frilier, but your strikes deadlier. Push your luck too far, and permanent death comes fast. It's a constant reminder that every fight matters, and that you can't afford to waste an opportunity. Sifu isn't just about surviving. It's about mastering your craft under pressure, using every inch of the arena, and proving you can outthink and outfight anything the game throws at you. Brutality in fighting games comes in all shapes, whether it's raw gore or the precision of a perfectly timed strike. But no matter the style, these games all share one thing. They make every win feel hard-earned and unforgettable. Because at the end of the day, the more savage the fight, the sweeter that final victory feels. And if your opponent's still standing after that, well, maybe it's time for a rematch. If you enjoyed this list, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and join us for more gaming's most intense moments.